We've come to Ironbridge, birthplace of the Industrial Revolution, but with all that industry came pollution and climate change.
Here, like everywhere, they're facing up to what that means, especially when it comes to flooding.
You know, back then, whenever I talked about climate change, people would send letters to the newsroom, they'd phone us to say there's just no such thing.
Which is why the report we did back in 1999, yes I know, was all about the evidence. David, this looks like Alfric in Worcestershire.
Well, that's because it is, and you're here to see a man about a frog.
Frogs spawning earlier and earlier was one of the key pieces of evidence for climate change, alongside things like early flowering primroses.
Frogs and primroses aren't very scientific though, are they, Dave?
Well, no, that's true, but the government's looking at about 35 different wildlife indicators to try and work out what our climate's up to.
Soon it became very clear what the climate was up to. Not just changes to nature, but changes to the weather.
Each winter seemed wetter than the last.
Last night in Bewdley, there was a party atmosphere outside this riverside pub. Today, people are cold, wet and miserable, and beginning to realise that these floods could be the largest in living memory. For these children, this should be a once-in-a-lifetime event, something to tell their grandchildren about. The fear here is that global warming may mean the children of Bewdley will see many more floods like this.
And David, that prediction turned out to be right.
Yes, just as the science always said. We were seeing wetter winters with much heavier, even violent downpours.
Bromyard is completely cut off with all routes impassable. The 7th wettest December on record. River levels at Shropshire have reached their highest levels for 20 years.
But the overwhelming nature of the floods of the summer of 2007 still shocked everyone.
It was the country's largest peacetime emergency since World War II.
After you went, we got a message of 5 people need to come out.
Plot out every major flood we've reported on in the last 25 years and the trend is clear. We're seeing much more flooding.
And this rises hand in hand with temperatures. This is the record in Telford, just up the road from us, but it's the same story everywhere.
For the longest time, I would have said that upward trend, that was the evidence for climate change, but you couldn't say climate change was directly responsible for one bad set of floods one winter. But all of that has changed.
So now scientists can say with certainty that, say, for example, Storm Dara was made worse by climate change.
Exactly.
So what does the next 25 years hold?
Well, for one thing, you don't need to be near a river to flood. Heavy downpours leading to flash flooding will become more common. One study says after London, it's Birmingham where properties are at the greatest risk of flooding.
But things will keep getting worse riverside too.
Until traditional defences won't be enough. So even places like Ironbridge, where they spent over £1 million, will still be vulnerable.
Exactly. Looking back like this, we can see that climate change has got worse in the Midlands over the past 25 years and brought with it lots of flooding. And as we look forward, that's only going to get worse.